Without any doubt, Concorde was truly a flying work of art. It displayed mind-blowing aesthetics when blasting through the stratosphere at 60,000 feet, allowing the passengers to see Earth's curvature. In this video, you will discover 10 impressive facts about Concorde. I picked some of the lesser-known facts that you hopefully don't know yet, so stick with me until the end to discover them all. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video because it greatly helps out the channel. If you wish to get your personal Concorde model, I have shared with you in the description of this video some of the best pieces. Check them out and get yours today. All that said and done, let's get started. Number 10. The airframe. Concorde's astonishing delta wing design was named after a medieval style of an arch, the Ogee Arch, and it was quite famous in both Britain and France in the 1300s and 1400s. Concorde was cruising at an impressive speed of Mach 2.02. As its skin was starting to soften at such a high airspeed, the aircraft's maximum airspeed was limited by temperature, not power. So despite the extreme cold prevailing at its cruising altitude, Concorde's skin temperature was reaching about 127 degrees Celsius at the tip of its nose. As a consequence, the aircraft was getting about 23 centimeters longer during cruise. Another crazy fact is that the aircraft wasn't fitted with speed brakes over the wings like any normal commercial aircraft. Therefore, the flight crew needed to select idle reversed thrust of engines number 2 and number 3 to achieve a proper descent rate. This special procedure allowed the crew to lose some 20,000 feet in only 3 minutes. It is the only passenger aircraft in the world that has ever been certified to use the thrust reversers mid-air. Number 9. The name. Concorde means agreement, harmony, and union in both English and French, and it symbolizes the great cooperation between Britain and France to design and build this masterpiece. You're probably wondering why you have an E at the end of Concorde because this spelling is rather incorrect in English. Well, simply because it is the right spelling in French. Initially, there has been some tension between the two countries regarding whether Concorde should have the English or the French spelling. Finally, in late 1967, the British Minister of Technology, Tony Benn, stated that the suffix E would stand for excellence, England, and entente, everything Concorde proudly embodies. Another important note about this aircraft's name is that it had also acquired an unusual nomenclature for an aircraft. Concorde is always labeled without an article, so you would never hear about the Concorde or a Concorde. Number 8. Concorde liveries. Most of the liveries were painted with highly reflective white paint to prevent aerodynamic overheating of the aluminum structure at high speed. Only 2 liveries were painted in blue for promotional reasons. But those aircraft flights at Mach 2.0 were only limited for brief periods of time. For instance, an Air France Concorde received a Pepsi livery due to a promotional deal between the two companies. Another unusual livery was British Airways Concorde, with the British Airways livery on the starboard side and the Singapore Airlines livery on the port side. This special Concorde livery resulted from a shared flight agreement between the two airlines flying from London to Singapore. Unfortunately, they only operated 3 of the flights as governments complained about the sonic boom's noise, and this will bring us to our number 7. Number 7. Concorde's opposition. In 1963, the aircraft saw the first signs of opposition after the anti-Concorde project was founded by the environmental activist Richard Wiggs. He claimed and publicized all the bad effects of Concorde on the environment, the people, and the infrastructures. The skyrocketing costs of the project were also at the heart of the dispute. On an international scale, countries like Sweden, the Netherlands, Norway, the US, and many others prohibited supersonic flights over their territory. This resulted in the first Concorde route network being only limited to Paris, Caracas, Paris, Rio, and London, Bahrain. Concorde also had rivals in the Soviet Union. The Tu-144 hit Mach 2.0 before Concorde and was used by NASA for research afterward. However, this airplane was a complete failure as a passenger jet, as it struggled to be airworthy, crashing multiple times. The Tu-144 even crashed in 1973 at the Paris Air Show, where it broke apart mid-air in front of a huge global audience. Number 6. The technical data. This engineering jewel was powered by 4 Olympus 593 and allowed Concorde to establish the fastest New York to Paris flight that took only 2 hours, 59 minutes, and 40 seconds. The 4 engines were delivering about 70 tons of thrust during takeoff with the afterburners on, equivalent to some 160,000 horsepower. The Olympus 593 engines could also change the air duct shape to optimize it for subsonic and supersonic flight, which was a mind-blowing advance for that time. The engines were so powerful that it was difficult to taxi the aircraft on the apron. Concorde used afterburners for takeoff, increasing the engine's thrust by 17% and resulting in a takeoff speed of about 400 kilometers per hour, which it could reach in 30 seconds. Concorde is also the first airliner to use fly-by-wire flight controls, making maneuvering much easier and improving passenger comfort. Number 5. The landing phase. Bringing to a full stop a 185-ton heavy Concorde rolling at over 300 kilometers per hour, Dunlop developed carbon-based brakes capable of stopping the aircraft within only 1 mile. With the landing speed being about 270 kilometers per hour, special brakes were needed to stop the aircraft and cope with the immense heat generated. As you probably know, Concorde's nose was movable. But why? Due to the airplane's delta wing, a high-pitch angle was maintained to produce enough lift to fly at the low airspeeds during takeoff and landing. Moving the nose cone down provided the pilots adequate visual references for these crucial phases of the flight. The nose cone was put 15 degrees down during approach, about 15 minutes before touchdown. At 50 feet above the landing runway, the autopilot and auto thrust were disconnected and the flare was performed manually. Number 4. Concorde's price. The main drawback of this entire project is the price. Economically, Concorde was an absolute disaster. The Concorde program's original costs were estimated to be around £70 million, but ended up costing an overwhelming £1.3 billion. The average round-trip price was around $12,000, which is obviously outrageously expensive. Despite this crazy ticket price and flying at full capacity, it is believed that not even a single Concorde flight has ever been profitable. British Airways was claiming the opposite, but without considering the money the government was pumping into the project since the very beginning. Besides, the crew training and the fuel spending, the maintenance costs were also considerable and played a big role in Concorde's retirement. Number 3. Concorde is a never-dying museum. Of the 20 Concordes originally produced, only 2 are no longer with us. The first one is obviously the Concorde that crashed, and the second one was disassembled. The other tail numbers are displayed in museums or decorating the airport, such as the one resting at Roissy Charles de Gaulle in Paris. Museums greatly preserve and maintain every single piece of their Concorde, so you will usually have an outstanding experience if you ever decide to visit one. You could find most of the remaining Concordes in the UK and France, and others in Germany or the United States. Obviously, the best museums are those that will let you sit inside the flight deck and discover every single instrument. You can do this in the Concorde of the Delta Museum situated near Orly Airport in Paris, but also in Manchester, Weybridge, and Scotland. Number 2. Special design features. Because the center of lift changes quite drastically when Concorde was flying supersonic, the engineers have fitted the aircraft with a very smart feature. In fact, the pilots were transferring some 20 tons of fuel to the rear of the aircraft to change its center of gravity and maintain a proper balance at supersonic speed. The crew was activating this fuel transfer when passing Mach 0.95. This fuel was considered as ballast fuel, and it was not used during the whole supersonic phase of the flight. Another small, yet striking detail is the special tail bumper that was fitted on the tail of the aircraft. Because of the high angle of attack during takeoff and landing, this bumper wheel was a protection to avoid touching the secondary engine nozzles and damage the engines should the tail wheels touch the ground during one of these flight phases. Additionally, the Mach number was shown in the cabin on a small display so that passengers can always see the speed at which they're flying into the stratospheric airspace. And here we go for our number 1 most impressive fact about Concorde. If you've enjoyed the video so far, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet. Number 1. Some astonishing fuel figures. Concorde was gulping fuel at a monstrous rate. It consumed about 90 tons per hour with the afterburners on. Afterburners were used only for 2 phases of the flight. Their first usage was at the takeoff power setting, but they were quickly switched off at 500 feet or at the noise abatement cutback where needed. The second time the afterburners were set on is for the transonic acceleration when passing Mach 0.95, then off again at Mach 1.7. a run between 10 and 15 minutes dependent upon aircraft weight and outside air temperature. The aircraft will reach its cruising speed of Mach 2.02 only 45 minutes after departure. Until this moment, Concorde had burned 75 tons of fuel. Can you imagine that? With all this data put together, it comes as no surprise that Concorde was a real cash-bleeding machine. Which of these facts about Concorde did you find the most impressive? Let me know by leaving a comment down below. Want to watch more aviation top 10s? Click on any of the videos you see on your screen right now. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.